5, 4. Hello, everybody. James Floyd Kelly here. I'm with my friend Eric Wex, and welcome to episode. Eric, help me out here.
16.
Wow, 16, right?
Mm-hmm.
We missed last week. I apologize. Not Eric's fault. That was my fault. Sometimes real life gets in the way of things.
Kids get sick.
Kids get sick. They do.
I'm a stay-at-home dad too. I understand.
Yeah, last week my child was really sick, and all I could think about was The Exorcist. Just head spinning. I mean, 4-year-olds, gotta love them. Anyway, welcome back, viewers. We've got a lot to talk about this episode. We're going to still try to keep it under, around 15 minutes, but it might go a little over because we do have a lot to talk about. Eric, you are currently on part 4 of your Gravelander serial story for GeekDad.com.
Part 5 comes out this week.
This Friday,
Working on that today.
Yeah, I'm hoping our readers, viewers are really enjoying the story because I am enjoying it, and I told you that I had some questions for you, and I'm not necessarily blindside you with them because I think you're ready for them, but I'm gonna hit you with some questions. Here's the thing: Little Joe is now with the Timcree. She's on this and by the way, spoilers here, folks. If you haven't read parts 1 through 4, stop. Don't listen, because we're getting into spoiler area here.
Go read it. It's only about 3,000 words a pop, and there's only 4 of them. It
right.
takes a few minutes. Then come back.
Yeah, you can read it very quickly. Don't wait until episode 9, because you're going to have a lot to read.
So you'll find them at geekdad.com. Just search GeekDad Gravelander, and you'll find those. That's
right. So here's a question for you. You've got these Timcree who are in this ramshack, this kludged together bunch of spaceships that are duct taped together, which is a totally cool image, by the way, in my head. Little Joe is now firmly on that space. I don't know whether you call it a space station.
I don't know what to call it.
I don't know what to call it, but
encampment.
Yeah, she's there, and she's just witnessed a very violent knife fight. And she's questioning whether or not she's actually a prisoner or welcome there, and as it turns out, she is really not welcome there. But at the end, I have this question: you have the pregnant woman, which we believe is the wife of the commander.
Yep.
Not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure. And she obviously does not like Joe. She's staring daggers at her. And Little Joe is the nurse, or has the medical knowledge, and you leave the cliffhanger with, train so-and-so. And so I'm sitting here going, what is going on? I mean, obviously Little Joe is a very important character. And I like this superstitious, religious thing you've got going on with the Timcree. So I'm just, don't spoil it for me, but just, man, what is going on? Okay? I'll just leave it at that. What is going on?
So this goes right into what we want to talk about today. I think this is a good question, right? I think what you're seeing there is the tension between the A story,
right,
which is what's happening,
right,
and Joe's story, which is her emotional journey in the midst of the circumstances that surround her.
You're going to call that the B story.
Yeah, I'm going to call that the B story, which those are script writing terms. And traditionally the B story, traditionally the B story is the romance, but I don't think romance is the only kind of B story. And I think it's a great critique of the idea of B story when you just think of it as romance. The best way I've heard described to think of it is the emotional journey of the main character.
Okay. We had discussed that we were gonna. You're smart because we were talking earlier that we were gonna make this about the A and B story of a novel or a story in general, and I didn't realize you were gonna twist it into that. So nice. Here's the thing. For me, you're calling the A story the Timcree thing, and the B story Joe's sort of what's going on behind the scenes. We're actually getting a lot more of B than we are of A because it's from Joe's point of view.
True, and that is my writing style in particular, in that I like very character-driven, character-rich stories. So for me, the B story is actually, in fact, just before we went on air, I am outlining the B story for the next few episodes because I realized that I didn't like the A story outline that I had for the coming episodes. So this is another thing that I think authors need to understand is that, I talk about outlining a novel. when you outline, that does not mean you're done outlining, right? For most of us, at least for me, it doesn't. I really follow a process where I am continually adjusting the outline based on what I discover. And in order for me to get comfortable to write, I have to make sure that I have at least the next 2 episodes outlined. And to do that, well, you know, in this case, I don't like the outline I laid out at the beginning at this point. I actually think I was going to make some pretty serious mistakes that would affect my universe in ways that I don't want to affect it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, my last 2 days have been spent really thinking through again, what is the second half of the story going to be? And it's actually going to be a lot more intimate than grand, right? So I have this tendency in my novels to have this grand scope, right? This big scope, particularly in The Far Bank of the Rubicon, has a very large scope to it. And I like that about my novels. I've got 100,000 words. I can have a grand scope. But when you're writing in 3,000 word chunks, and this novel is going to turn out to be a lot more intimate. The novella, actually, is going to turn out to be a lot more intimate than I thought. So, I'm really working that through. So that's why you're seeing B story kind of take precedence over A right now a little bit.
Okay, I will give you time to pull the A story forward, and I'm not going to ask too many questions. I do have another question, and this, unfortunately, not unfortunately, I think this episode is going to turn into a, hey, let's talk about Gravelander. Because, you know, now that we're 4 episodes in and getting ready to be 5 episodes in, we're at the halfway mark. The questions are really starting to come, and of course I have access to you, so I can ask.
Right.
Here's the thing, and I think it was episode 3. They're all sort of blending now. I think it was episode 3. The commander was talking to Jo about her brother.
Yes.
And I mean, it was like literally like less than a paragraph of discussion. Jo withheld information about her brother, which didn't go over well with the commander, because he made this statement of like, information is valuable.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, hey, you've got a lot to learn, which made me think that he sees discussion as just value in itself, information for information. So here's a question for you: the brother has been mentioned, not by name, just the mention of him. Is that going to favor into the part B or the part A?
Not in Gravelander.
Not in Gravelander.
But it features very prominently in Athena's Revenge.
Okay.
Teddy has a huge role in that story.
Okay.
And plays a very
Well,
I'm gonna zip that right now, but he plays.
Was the commander just asking about Teddy because he was just curious, or was he asking because there's something a little more?
Well, I think he's also trying to figure out who he's taken with him.
Okay.
At that point, so the commander knows. You know, the commander hasn't fully revealed why he chose Jo.
Yeah.
And what he really wants from Jo.
Okay.
You know, and how that went down, but we'll see probably in this episode, and that's a good reminder to me that I want to go back and hit some of those themes. In this episode, we're going to find out a lot more of what the commander was thinking in that hospital room on the hospital ship, and why he did some of the things that he did.
Okay.
And that's going to change Jo's perspective on why she's where she's at and what's actually going on. So.
Well, let's talk about this for a second, because I don't want this episode to be all about the Gravelander plot. Although,
right.
I'm curious, and I'm hoping some of our viewers might be curious about this. You know, I'm reading the stories. That's all I'm doing. I'm reading them. I'm not involved in their creation or their outline or whatever. How in the world are you? I mean, question one: do you have an end game plan? Do you know where? Always. Okay.
Always. That is the one marker you must have.
Got to know how it ends.
And to go to Rachel Aaron, she says you need to know your ending first, right? That's the book 2K to 10K that we've talked about a lot. She says know your ending first, and I agree with that. The destination of where you're trying to get your character even determines a lot about where you want your character to start from.
Okay.
And
now,
so
I suspected that you knew how it ended. I mean, I can't imagine you writing a 10-part serial and going, oh, you know what, the ending will reach me when it reaches me. Some writers do that. I don't know how they do it.
Geez, I don't know how they do it either. I really don't.
But having said that, I knew or I suspected that you did have the ending. I know you, so I'm like, Eric knows how it's going to end. So he's got 30,000 words or 50,000 words, somewhere between 30,000 and 50,000 words to get to it, right? You were talking about how you outline these stories. Now you've got to end. You don't have to end these on cliffhangers, but you have so far. Everything's sort of been like, what happens next? How hard is it? How hard is it to end those things on cliffhangers?
For me, that part is kind of instinctual. I will get toward the end of a 2,000 to 3,000 word chunk, and I'll just be like, ooh, that's a tension point. Stop.
Okay.
Right, and you just pull your hands off the keyboard, and you're like, okay, you've left tension in the room. And if you read my novels, I'm pretty good at at getting you to turn the page, particularly Etna.
I was gonna say not Rubicon. Etna had me where every time I read, I was like, got to keep going.
Yeah. The second half in particular.
Yeah, it was very fast.
Once you start that second half after the big thing,
yeah,
right? When the thing happens.
When the big thing happens, little things happen every chapter, and you can't stop reading because.
And I have lots of people who say that's their experience, right? Is that they're like, it's my favorite reviews. They're like, don't read this at bedtime because you won't sleep.
Yeah, Etna was. I love cliffhangers. I'm a big believer that chapters should always want you wanting to read the next chapter, and so yes, Etna was very strong in my mind as having that. And not to say that Rubicon, wasn't.
Rubicon has its moments, but it's not. It doesn't do that nearly. Some of it is in Rubicon. The danger is global for most of the time. It's not personal.
Well, Rubicon also is spread out.
Yes.
Over a larger period of time, whereas Etna was like, all these things are happening in this Jack's life is falling apart chapter by chapter by chapter by chapter. Yes. So yeah, there was a different time. There was a different speed. Etna had a different speed than Rubicon did. Yeah. Yep. So you're right about that. Well, let me ask you this: for the A story, are we going to get more A story in episode?
Yeah, absolutely. You got so one of the things to talk about with A story versus B story is that that a story does not exist without both, and the quality of a story is often how well you entwine the emotional journey with what happens. So I think it's easy for some of our more action-oriented science fiction plot-driven readers, like us geek dads who like that stuff, right? I think it's very easy to ignore the B story and not pay attention to it. So I'll give you two classic examples. Let's go with the more difficult one first, and then we'll come back to the easier one. So I'm going to make a case, and I'm not sure. I haven't thought this fully through because I'm thinking about it on the spot. I would say Mass Effect 3 and the problems at the end come with with Ubisoft not paying attention to the B story.
You're going with a game.
I am going with a game. It was, for me, I love the Mass Effect series. I played 1 and 2, and then I heard what happened at the end of 3, and I refused to play it. But I loved it because it was a choose-your-own-adventure movie. I mean, it took me back to Montgomery, which, rest in peace, he died this week, right? But
R.A. Montgomery? Yeah.
R.A. Montgomery. It took me back to those stories of choose-your-own-adventure when I was a kid, and I had that exact same feel, except it was a dang movie. There were movies in between, and then action gaming in between that. It was fantastic. Absolutely love that stuff.
I am so... Oh, here we go. Eric, you're going to love this, buddy. 1979, Cave of Time.
That's awesome.
This was the book that got me loving to read. Loving to read. Journey, it was Journey number 2. By Balloonjas of the Hera was number 3.
Read that one too.
Here's my favorite, Space and Beyond.
I didn't read that one. I'll have to go find it.
Oh no! You know what? I'm going to argue that this was my favorite at the time until book 5 came out. The Mystery of Chimney Rock, the haunted house.
Right.
This one was great. And then my last one, Your Codename is Jonah the Spy one.
That's awesome.
My mom kept these on the bookshelf for me when I got them recently, and they're a piece of history.
Fantastic. Those are great great things to have.
Anyway, sorry about that. Sorry to interrupt you there.
But you know, I think that Mass Effect suffers at the end of that because they didn't pay attention that their B story was all about choice.
Yeah.
And it was all about your choices affecting the world around you, and they just cared about wrapping up their A story and didn't care about the emotional journey that they put their readers on.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, that's the less cynical way to view it. Or they're nihilists, and they really did care about the emotional journey you're on. They just think
it's all going to end anyway.
It's all going to end anyways, and it didn't really matter. So there's one example of how the B story can really influence something that doesn't seem like the B story should matter in a game like Mass Effect, but it really had an impact on the gamers when they finished the Mass Effect series the way they did. Another example of that I would give, just to say that every story has a B story, would be Hunt for the Red October, the great Tom Clancy novel and movie. And they're very similar, so you can talk about them in the same in the same breath. But you know, in that, Jack Ryan has to prove to himself and to those around him that he is a capable agent.
Right.
And that is the B story
Yeah.
that underlies this whole submarine thing, right? Yeah. Is that Jack is given authority because Admiral Greer, his sage, believes in him to go on a journey, right? And here's this whole hero's journey thing, right? He goes on a journey out to the carrier, and he does crazy things. He dies, goes into the water,
right?
He's resurrected on the submarine. I mean, the whole thing is right there, and comes out a changed person, makes choices that actually choose and affect the way things go for the rest of it, and becomes someone that others trust to make great decisions where they trust his instincts. So that story is actually his emotional journey through, you know, from the kind of bumbling daddy who leaves home with a teddy bear mission and can't sleep on planes,
and then
to the man who is very comfortable sleeping on a plane at the end.
Yeah, never thought about that.
So in every film, I don't care how action-oriented, in every film there is a B story.
Well, we are out of time.
All right.
They always go quick. They always do.
They do.
We can't go back and say we'll change it to 30 minutes because we kind of promised our viewers we would try to not steal all of their time.
I don't think they'd watch.
Yeah,
I actually think 15 minutes is perfect.
Well, I tell you what, we haven't talked. Yeah, we have talked since StoryCon ended. StoryCon went well.
StoryCon went well. We haven't talked Oricon, which is where I was a couple of weeks ago.
We should talk about that next week. Just briefly, we'll go over that.
Right.
Was that me or you?
That was me. Sorry, I got a message.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do this. Viewers, we'll be back next week. Hopefully, we're going to be back on a weekly schedule, barring any kids getting sick again or whatever. But episode 16, thank you for joining us. And obviously, if you have any questions or topics that you'd like us to discuss, please fire them off to Eric. You can go to his website at ericwex.com. You can also sign up for his newsletters. Again, appeal for me if you've read an appeal. If you've read any of Eric's stories, please consider taking the time to go to Amazon and giving them a review. He loves reviews. We like seeing Eric get reviews. Those numbers really do help him. And obviously, if you're enjoying the PAX Imperium universe that Eric's created, please continue to check out geekdad.com. Eric will be posting episode 5 this week, probably on Friday. We're trying to do these once a week, and so now we're up to episode 5. So, Eric, man, it's been fun. I'm enjoying it. I can't believe we're at the halfway point already.
It's going good.
Yep. All right. Well, listen, we will chat again next week. Okay.
Take care. We'll talk to you soon.
See ya.